It feels like we're living in a weird moment with images. We've seen more than any generation before us, but somehow remember less. Everywhere you look, there's something to record. The drive to the grocery store, the weekend on the lake, the dinner you made, every single quiet moment that used to belong to only you. We film it, we save it, we post it, and then we move on. At first, this feels beautiful, like preservation, like proof that our lives are full. But if you sit with it for a moment, something about it starts to feel heavy. Because most images don't stay with us anymore. They just pass through us. Images used to ask something of us. They asked for time. They asked for attention. They asked us to sit with them long enough for meaning to form. Now, images ask for nothing. They ask to be consumed, and consumption feels safe. Consumption feels like participation without risk. You don't have to decide what matters. You don't have to linger. You don't have to be changed. You just keep moving. Scrolling, it like trains us to replace moments instead of holding them. One image fills the space where another could have stayed. We just don't miss images anymore. We quickly replace them. And when everything is replaceable, nothing becomes heavy enough to carry with us, if you get what I'm saying. Now, I don't think this means people don't care. I think it means people care deeply, but they just don't know where to put their care anymore. So I kind of feel like this is what happens nowadays. Yeah. They document, they archive, they collect moments the way you collect tabs in a browser, open, unfinished, and waiting. Recording becomes a way to avoid feeling something fully, honestly. Posting becomes a way to avoid sitting with it. Not because people are shallow, but because stillness is uncomfortable now. Stillness asks questions. There was a time when images moved slower. You had to wait to see them, which is like film. You had to return to them. Usually it was film. And you had to live between the moments instead of just skipping past them in a gallery in your phone, back when it was film. Just saying. But seriously, though, memory required friction, It required time. It required patience. It required you to stay. Now speed is the point. Really, let's be realistic. The faster you move, the less anything can reach you. And when nothing reaches you, everything starts to feel the same. I feel like we talk a lot about oversaturation, about too many images, about too much content, but the real issue, it really isn't volume, in my opinion. It's weight. So many images now are perfectly framed, well lit, technically impressive, and honestly, completely forgettable. Not because they're bad or anything, But just because they weren't meant to be lived inside, they were meant to be passed through. Most of the moments that stay with us were never optimized. They weren't posted immediately. They weren't cropped for attention. They weren't explained. They stayed because we gave them time. Because we were there long enough for them to leave a mark. Memory doesn't come from documentation. It comes from being present in the moment. And presence can't be rushed. Somewhere along the way, recording replaced remembering. And now we confuse having footage with having experience. But experience asks more of us, honestly. It asks us to stay when it will be easier to move on. It asks us to feel something without turning it into proof. And it asks us to let moments exist without extracting anything from them. That's way harder now than it was back in the day. Because everything around us is built for speed. This isn't failure. It's more of a response to where we are. When life moves fast, we learn to skim it. When attention is constantly pulled, we learn to not attach. So we consume moments instead of letting it shape us, And maybe that's why so much, feels lighter now. Why days blur together. Why experiences feel interchangeable. Why we struggle to remember how something actually felt. Not because nothing meaningful is happening, but because meaning needs time to settle. And we don't give it that anymore. The question isn't how do we record less or post less or capture better. The question is quieter than that. The question is a lot more simple than that. Are we willing to stay? Are we willing to sit with something long enough for it to actually matter? Because consumption moves fast, but memory asks you to slow down. And slowing down has become rare. And I think we all need to slow down and remember.